sweet spot that we all want to be aiming for when we've got our tools in place. We want to make sure we've got that advocacy. We could also ask survey data. So for instance, if people have gone through 4 or 5 pages of your website, you could ask them, what are you going to do next? Are you going to visit a healthcare professional? Are you going to do nothing? And you can start to really benchmark the success of the assets and the content that you produced. We were working on a website previously, and 75% of all people that visited the website said their next port of call was going to be to visit their general practitioner, their healthcare professional. So that was a fantastic statistic to be able to report to say our content has changed behaviour, it's influenced opinion, and people are going to do something different as a result of it. Google Analytics is a free tool again, so we've mentioned free a lot, and this is probably the best free tool you could ever hope for. This is a plugin for any website, so if you've got a website, you can activate Google Analytics right now, tomorrow, whenever. Has anybody got Google Analytics set up right now for any of their websites?
It can be set up by us with no any special knowledge?
No, so as long as you own a website, all you need to do is set up a Gmail email account, which is pretty straightforward, and then you get this instantly.
An extra Gmail account?
Sorry?
Or my Gmail account?
Your personal Gmail account's fine. You can link a website to your Gmail account, and you get all of this rich media and content. So this is just a screenshot of the dashboard, the homepage of Google Analytics. So this is the Red Door Communications website. This is the report of the analysis of the Red Door Communications website, and you can see there the line graph.
One more question I had. Is all connected to actually produce data only from websites or also from blogspots? Blogspots. Blogs.
Blogs, sorry. Yes, blogs is fine.
Blogs and websites. Blogs also.
Yeah, absolutely. But only if you own them. You can't go to some random website. You have to, you can't spy on other people. But essentially what it shows is that the blue line is the traffic to the website. So it shows how many people each day have come onto your website. So if you've got an email campaign that went out, I think on the 22nd of January, you can see how many more people came to your website as a result of that email campaign than if you had no campaign go out whatsoever. So you can start to track the effectiveness of your website and the effectiveness of your campaigns by what's influenced the web content. Over and above that, you can look at, on the left-hand column, you've got the page views, you've got the average visit duration, so you can see that the average person visits our website for 2 minutes and 4 seconds. So that kind of suggests that they get quite involved with the content. It's not sort of 5 seconds and they're off and they've not really got involved with the content on the site. 2 minutes is quite a long time for a website to be sat in there, sort of going through the content, so that's quite good. In terms of the page visits, then you can see 2.99, so almost 3 pages is the typical number of pages that people have visited when they go onto the website. So we can start to see what's working and what's not, and if we need to refine the approach and look at different ways of doing things to get more people involved with the content, then that's great. The bar graph you can see there is to show that 35.6% of all people are new visitors, so that's new people that we had never got into the site before, whereas the blue, 64%, are just people that have come back to the site. So that's just also additional insight that you can leverage through Google Analytics. But it goes much, much deeper than this. You can set up specific things like looking at the location of where people are coming from to get access to your site. You can look at specific metrics, and you can set up specific things. So if you've got a newsletter on your website, you can see how many people have downloaded it. You can see out of all the people that have come to your website, how many people actually downloaded it and shared it, etc. So you can really ascertain what's working and what's not through introducing something as easy as Google Analytics to the web platform.
So, just a short wrap up. I think we all got the idea that the possibilities to monitor your content are pretty much endless. And you can do whatever you want with your content, and you can follow it. But do we understand what the value of this information is? Does anyone have a question specifically for this part of the presentation? Because as I've mentioned before, you are the ones who know your peers and your your members and the people who visit your websites and the people that you work with in your region. And of course, you will try to make your website and your internet presence as best as possible for your region. But the thing is, with this information behind you, you can step out of the rail, or step out of the position of being a website that just gives information, that is just presenting. And you can step into the position of someone who is interacting with your peers, because when you see that something works well, then you can build on top of that. And if you see that something works bad, you can either cancel it or you can improve it. Can we agree on this? We all agree and we are freezing. I just want to let you know that we only have about 10 minutes. About maximum 10 minutes. I see that you're tired and you're shivering and your stomachs are growling. So just hang on just a little bit.
So like you can monitor and evaluate your websites, you can also do that with social. So looking at things like, there are websites called Clouds or Cred. They look at your social power, your social influence, by looking at the type of content you're sharing, the numbers of followers that you have, the numbers of people who are actually engaging in your channel. So it's quite an easy thing to do. It's just to go onto a website like Clouds, and you can instantly see how influential your social channels are. So you can see how influential is your Twitter feed, how influential is your Facebook channel. And that's just another sort of tip in terms of starting to get an insight as to what's working well and how you can become more influential. In other words, get a higher score on something like Clouds, with which you can have even more influence now as a result of that. In terms of increasing influence, then it's very much the same as search engine optimization. It's all about increasing your traffic, incoming links into the site, user engagement, recommendations, etc. So they're just key things that we've got to be mindful of with social. I was going to conduct a quick sort of survey, but who thinks the US President Barack Obama is more influential than Lady Gaga? Absolutely. Lady Gaga is more influential than the President of the United States of America. So that's just to show that you can actually monitor your own influence and you can benchmark your kind of influence against other people. So it's not just that organisations that have this social influence scale, and you can go on and see how yours rates against other ones. The CEO of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, or footballer, Robbie Savage, who's a UK footballer, who's more influential? Yeah, it's the footballer. And that's because Mark Zuckerberg doesn't actually produce any content. He doesn't actually write anything on Facebook. He doesn't share anything socially. Whereas Robbie Savage, the footballer, he writes for media, he actually puts out opinion, he puts a lot out socially, so he's got a higher social influence rating compared to the actual CEO of Facebook. And what is everybody measured against as the gold standard? Justin Bieber. He's got the highest clout rating out of everything and everybody in the world.
Come on.
It's true.
So actually we got the training to discuss Justin Bieber. This is something that I mentioned earlier that we're not going to do, and we still did it. That's great.
He's the gold standard.
That's great.
So just as a question to leave in your heads then, in terms of measuring your online assets, your websites, your Twitter feed, those are the sorts of tools you want to be using. So go onto Clouds, get Google Analytics set up on your website, and it will just empower you, as Martin was saying, to take control of your content and to actually have more influential, more credible stuff.
We'll just ask Justin Bieber to talk about your organization.
If you get a retweet from Justin Bieber, you're doing well. The last section, which we'll just whisk through, is traditional media. So the focus has been on digital communications. Traditional media, obviously there is a huge spectrum of different types of media that we have to approach. From an agency perspective, that is everything from print and broadcast all the way through edited and live TV and radio, and also national and regional newspapers. The power of that is, absolutely known, and I know that you will conduct media relations within your own organisations and agencies. But there are different types of reporters that we want to approach. So the general news reporters are exceptionally time poor. They want a story, they want to be able to see the power of that story instantly without a particular depth of knowledge associated with that, and they tend to be more cynical and sceptical. So when you phone them up, you've got literally 30 seconds to a minute to get their interest, otherwise the phone's being put down on you. Compared to sort of industry and business reporters, then they tend to have much more in-depth knowledge. They tend to be much more amenable when it comes to having more in-depth conversations, and they get to see the power of the story or become aware of that much more quicker. In terms of what makes a good story, then obviously the relevance to all audiences. It's important to have that sort of first, the news, as a sort of attention-grabbing piece. And also always supported by good quality data where possible. So depending on whether we're targeting a health journalist versus a consumer affairs editor, then that data is going to be really, really important. And also topical to make sure it fits in with the sort of current news agenda. Obviously the converse is true in terms of what's not going to work. Not having really a platform to stand on from a campaign perspective, or not having that data to support you. We're also up against a hell of a lot in terms of the news that's coming out. So press releases, journalists are bombarded obviously by press releases every day, press conferences like this one, all the way through to public meeting minutes, personal contacts, all the way through to Twitter, because a lot of the journalists that we have are very influential and get their stories from Twitter as a sort of first. So we're up against a lot in terms of actually having to cut through and break the news and have that opportunity. But given the context that certainly in the UK, hepatitis is an absolutely no-go area. The Daily Mail, do not want to talk about hepatitis within their newspaper whatsoever. And that's pretty similar across all platforms in terms of newspapers that we approach. So it's a really, really tough thing that we have to do to be able to gauge that interest and pique that interest, which is why we've adopted from the World Hepatitis Alliance perspective a multitude of different types of touch points. So we've got this sort of the celebrities involved with the Hear No Evil, See No Evil, Speak No Evil campaign, which makes it slightly more interesting to journalists and become more amenable to it. But it is absolutely the top priority in terms of what we collectively want to achieve. We have found good examples with personal case studies. So there was an example of a boy in Africa who actually wanted to contract HIV so that he could gain access to hepatitis medications. And the power, we talked previously about the power of emotion, the emotional context of that story is so great that we were able to attract quite significant attention to be able to sort of draw awareness to this terrible story that's been experienced in Africa. And that is compelling from a media perspective, so that's something which we have been able to do. In terms of media education, that face-to-face time is absolutely important. So, we don't want to just rely on press releases, media alerts. Conducting one-to-one interviews and getting the time to take a journalist out for coffee is absolutely essential, so we can give them that context and we can really touch them in a personal way, like when we ranked the different formats of communication from personal to non-personal. And finally, stats. So, in terms of some of the WHO disease prevalence data, which should be coming out for World Hepatitis Day this year, that's a really good example of something that we should be able to generate media attention off of the back of, because that's brand new statistics about the global prevalence, and that will give us a nice media hook to be able to distribute press releases in more of a traditional way, off of the back of some of those case study stories that we've generated previously. So that, in a quite quick format, wraps up all of the sessions that we had planned for this initial section of the day. I hope that's been of interest, and it's at least provoked some thoughts about what you could do moving forward with your organisations, the different types of approaches you can do, and the different tools that are at your disposal to be able to use. I don't know if Martin, there's anything else in this section before we break?
I just want to ask if there are any questions, although I see that everyone is really, really tired. Are you tired? Raise your hand if you're tired.
Look at the curtain there. You'll see.
Look at the curtain.
Look at the curtain. Look
It's ghosts.
Yeah, this is how it is,
Yeah. Holland is full of ghosts. Okay, so we're tired. We're going to break for about an hour, and we're going to go downstairs onto the easel floors. I want to ask you, please, 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 don't run away. we will continue again, and it will be even more interactive. You have 1 hour to go around to rest, get some coffee, we'll get the machine at the back working again. And I hope